After a lot of public musing, the world's richest person, Elon Musk, has announced the creation of the America Party, aiming to challenge the dominance of the Republican and Democratic parties. It comes after Musk, once one of Donald Trump's closest allies, had a major falling out with the US president, largely over Trump's debt-raising, so-called Big Beautiful Bill. So in this video, we'll take a look at why Musk is forming a new political party, and explain whether it can succeed where others have failed. We're getting ever closer to 1 million subscribers, and 68% of you aren't even subscribed yet. So lend us a hand and subscribe today. So let's start with a quick reminder of how Musk ended up in this position. Despite previously floating the idea of a moderate third party in 2022, by 2024 Musk was backing Donald Trump with full-throated support, spending more than $290 million to get him back in the White House and help Republicans elsewhere. Musk ended up in Trump's inner circle and led the Department of Government Efficiency, tasked with slashing government spending. But Musk has since left that role and publicly fallen out with Trump, railing against the Republicans' recently approved spending legislation for adding trillions to the government's debt, and claiming that the current two-party system amounts to a uni-party system. And so, for the past month or so, Musk has been publicly musing about starting a new party. And after polling his followers, he announced on July 5th, today the America Party is formed. Although it's not yet clear what steps Musk has taken to formally create the party. As for his platform, Musk hasn't said much, but did respond yeah when someone else proposed a range of policies, including debt reduction, AI acceleration, less regulation, free speech, pronatalism, and centrist policies elsewhere. Now, the Democratic and Republican parties have dominated the US political system for the last 160 years, so third parties have long struggled to break through. In some ways, Musk has many of the things that one would need to succeed. He has vast financial resources, considerable name recognition, and as an added bonus, owns a major social media platform. The public views both major parties unfavorably, and Gallup polling has shown that for more than a decade, around 60% of Americans think a third major party is needed. Nevertheless, there are significant obstacles to building a successful third party on a national scale. Each state has its own rules and requirements for registering a third party and getting on ballots. And even if you overcome those hurdles, the US's winner-takes-all electoral system is really unfavorable for upstart third parties. For example, independent candidate Ross Perot won an impressive 19% of the vote in the 1992 presidential election, but didn't win any individual state, and so wasn't awarded a single electoral college vote. Musk does actually seem to recognize this, and has suggested that instead, beginning with next year's midterm elections, his America Party would laser focus on just a handful of key congressional races. The logic being that given razor-thin legislative margins, you only need a small number of America Party lawmakers to be the deciding vote on legislation, and therefore exert outsized influence. And to be fair, this would probably be the most savvy approach. However, even in individual subnational races, third parties and independents just don't usually do well. Sure, there have been some instances of success. Jesse Ventura unexpectedly won the 1998 Minnesota gubernatorial election for the Reform Party. And even now, the US Senate has two independent senators, Vermont's Bernie Sanders and Maine's Angus King. But they both caucus with the Democrats and are definitely outliers. On top of this, Musk has already experimented with hyper-focusing his time and money on specific subnational races without much success. In April, the Conservative candidate lost a high-profile Wisconsin Supreme Court election by a 10-point margin, despite Musk and his affiliated groups pouring some $20 million into that race, and claiming that the outcome could decide the future of Western civilization. This brings us onto a key, perhaps the key point. Elon Musk just isn't a very popular guy. According to Nate Silver's aggregator, Musk's net favorability sits at about -18, having collapsed since last year's presidential election and the beginning of Trump's term, when Musk started Doge. He saw a little recovery after he left the government, but has since fallen back down to new record lows. And this isn't really surprising when you think about it. Musk basically killed any goodwill he had with the Democrats when he fully boarded the Trump train. For reference, last month a YouGov survey showed that just 10% of Democrats viewed him favorably. Whereas for Republicans, Musk's public falling out with Trump has damaged what was a positive reputation. That same survey showed that 67% of Republicans approved of Musk last month, down from 83% in December. Meanwhile, among independents, arguably the group that Musk wants to attract most, the numbers are also bleak, with 27% of independents viewing him favourably and 59% viewing him unfavourably, down from an even 42% split in December. So while Musk may have many of the resources that one might need to break the two-party system, he is significantly weighed down by his own unpopularity. And even if he's not actually a candidate for office, the America Party will still be the party of Musk. There's also another issue too, not just with Musk's new party, but with any political project that tries to break the two-party system by capturing the center. Yes, there are lots of people unhappy with both the Republicans and the Democrats, and there is an increasing proportion of those voters unaffiliated with either party. Musk has spoken about wanting his new party to represent what he's called the 80% of Americans in the middle. But even if we were to take that 80% figure as true, that middle chunk of the American electorate is far from a unified bloc that could easily come under one party's umbrella. The prospect of Musk bringing together the centre of the electorate also seems pretty far-fetched when you consider that he's not actually a centrist. After all, he embraced or amplified various far-right, nativist and anti-immigration movements across the world, including the AfD in Germany, Tommy Robinson in the UK, and Călin Georgescu in Romania. Finally, it remains unclear how committed Musk would actually be to this new political project. Without trying to psychologize him too much, he has a history of being erratic with his focus. For example, he said in May that he'd refocus his energy on Tesla, X, and his other businesses after leaving government, only to announce a new political party weeks later, much to the frustration of his investors. So it's entirely possible that he swings back away from frontline politics if he sees this new project as too damaging to his financial interests. But even though we've given lots of reasons we don't think Musk's America Party will break the two-party system, that doesn't mean that it won't potentially have a significant impact. If Musk does focus his efforts on a handful of races in the 2026 midterms, he could boost the Democratic Party's prospects by fueling a Republican civil war and splitting the Conservative vote. Ultimately, this is a complex and nuanced story, and as such, there's much more to read about it online, with more than 1,000 sources reporting on it. The issue is, how can you be sure that what you're reading isn't totally biased? Well, that's a problem that we face when writing these videos too, and luckily that's where this week's sponsor, Ground News, comes in. For this story in particular, they've identified that there are at least 138 left-leaning and 136 right-leaning sources reporting on it. In fact, in addition to this, they've also shown the main differences in the headlines among left and right-leaning outlets, with left-leaning outlets underscoring the fallout with Trump, while right-leaning coverage emphasizes Musk's fiscal conservatism. We're able to do that thanks to Ground News, whose incredible website and app lets you discover the news and pulls back the curtain on media bias. That's because every story comes with a quick visual breakdown of the political bias, factuality, and ownership of the source's reporting, all backed by ratings from 3 independent news monitoring organizations. But one of the best parts of the app is their blind spot feed. It presents you with stories and articles that haven't been reported on by one side of the aisle or the other, helping you better break out of your media bubble and discover what those on the other side of the political spectrum are really saying. For instance, if you lean left, you might have missed this story about Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear considering a 2028 presidential run, because only 18% of the reporting comes from outlets that lean left. However, if you regularly check the blind spot feed, you get shown what you're missing, helping you keep on top of what the entire political spectrum is thinking about, and why. If you're interested in everything that Ground News has to offer, you can get 40% off the Unlimited Vantage plan by using the link in the description, or scanning the QR code. This offer is only available here, so make sure you use our link to get started and support an independent news platform working to make the media landscape more transparent.